All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's program, Career Workshop for Library Staff. My name is Jen Park, and I'm the Community Engagement and Talent Development Specialist at Ramapo Catskill Library System. I am so pleased that today we have Sandra Michelle Eccles, who will be providing insight and information surrounding career growth. But before I do the official welcome, an introduction for Sandra Michelle, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping rules. So we are online, so I'm going to ask that everyone mute themselves. If you do not mute yourselves, I will mute you myself. So don't become offended, but because this is a recording, you know that background noise can become quite disruptive. Today's session will be placed on the RCLS YouTube channel, but I will also be sending out an email with information with links to our YouTube channel, as well as any resources our presenter provides. If you find you need to leave the meeting due to internet connectivity issues, feel free to do so and then pop on in. It will not be disruptive. If you need a continuing education certificate or a certificate of attendance, you can go ahead and email me at jen@rcls.org, and I'll be placing that information in the chat as well. So without further ado, I want to welcome our presenter, Sandra Michelle Eccles. I'm so thrilled. I've actually heard Sandra Michelle present before, and she's a phenomenal speaker, so knowledgeable and dynamic. I'm really greatly looking forward to this. But so let's talk a little bit about Sandra Michelle. They are the immediate past president of the New York Black Librarians Caucus and recently held the counselor at large for the New York Librarians Association position, and as committee co-chair for the affiliates of the Black Caucus of the American Library Association, held that position as well. Sandra Michelle holds a Master of Library Science from St. John's University, as well as a Master of Science in Fundraising and Grant Making from New York University. Since 2015, Sandra Michelle has also taught both undergraduate and graduate courses at several colleges and universities in New York State, specializing in information literacy, grant writing, career development, and reference and information sources. Ms. Eccles also boasts a long list of publications and service to the profession. She also has a commitment to adult education and received the 2017 National Institute for Literacy Scholarship Award from the Coalition of Adult Basic Education. Traces her commitment to adult education back to her own experience as an adult learner. A native New Yorker, she enjoys reading, participating in community service, and lives by the words of late activist Helen Keller: "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all." So please join me in welcoming Sandra Michelle Eccles. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope everyone is faring well in this weather that we're having. I would like to start off by having everyone type into the chat so I can see your job titles. This is a career workshop, and I'd like to know my audience and know what people are really looking for before I go into my presentation. This is an interactive workshop. I know that some people are calling on their phones. I wanted to use breakout groups. So I guess when you're in a breakout group, if you're calling in from your phone, the questions will be read to you so that you may not be able to see the actual worksheet. But I feel as though if we're going to talk about careers and how to help your career, you need to be actively involved and actively engaged in some of the materials that I do. I also come from the school of thought don't like being talked to all the time. I like to have a robust, engaging conversation. That may be attributed to the professor in me. However, I love feedback. So I don't, we've been here in Zoom land for the last 7 months. For some people, it's really new to you. For myself, I have always taught online for the past 5 years. So teaching online and coming into this remote session that we live in now, it was a seamless transition for me. But I do know that it can be quite daunting for others. So, so far, 6 people have popped in the chat what your job titles are. I would like to see the rest, and then I will get into my presentation. So we have here circulation and staff coordinator, academic library, circulation and tech, another academic library, circulation assistants, MLS student, library assistant, library assistant, copy catalog, couple of college. Okay, one children's librarian, adult service librarian. All right, so it's a mixture of where I came from. I started my career as a career changer, and I began at Queensborough Public Library. Working at Queensborough Public Library, I never I held one union position, which I was a branch manager for a very small amount of time while I was there. But all of my positions that I held at Queensborough Public Library were basically grant funded positions. And in holding grant funded positions, for me, it gave me the opportunity to explore, expand, and grow within the field of librarianship. Um, I'm a great proponent of unions because unions do help protect people when you have differences happening in the world of work. But then I also am a component of grant funded positions. And I know a lot of people feel that might be scary, but we do live in an at-will state. New York is an at-will state. If you work in New York, it's an at-will state. So even if you are in a union, does not give you perpetuity to your career, to your job, but at-will means you can easily be fired at will. I mean, it takes a little longer in a union position, but if something happened, so I live by the mindset of I go to work every day to work. A little bit because I have academic librarians here. I was told as a public librarian that I could not make the shift from working in a public library to go work in academia because most people automatically say you need double masters, but it was my skill set, the skill set that I acquired from working at Queensborough Public Library in grant funded positions and also working on grants that afforded me an opportunity to be able to transfer my skill set from public librarianship into academia. So I'm getting ready to share my screen and begin with my presentation. All right, let me minimize this. Okay, so career workshops for library staff. I have a beautiful introduction by Jen. Thank you so much for that introduction. And so here's a quote by Louis Pasteur: chance favors the prepared mind. What do you think chance favors the prepared mind, and why am I starting out my presentation with this? And we also have an image of a chessboard. Pop that in the chat what you think this means. Chance favors the prepared mind. I'm interested to see what you think about this quote and how this quote resonates with you as an individual. Chance meets the prepared mind. Manifestation, yes. Yes. Be open to adventures as they present themselves, yes. You should be ready when opportunities arise, definitely. You can't depend on luck. No, you can't. Definitely can't, Craig. I concur with that. If you're prepared, you can jump on the chances, yes. Be ready for opportunity when it comes along, yes. What else do we have going on here? All right. So I like to say chance meets the prepared mind because you just never know where you might be. You know, in the old days, you always heard about the elevator pitch, right? So what's your elevator pitch? What's your story? If you were in an elevator, which we're not in elevators anymore, but we are in Zoom, right? And so when you're in Zoom, you might feel that there might be somebody there that you might want to network with after or even during. So you might decide to put something in the chat into the person individually. So the thing about chance favors a prepared mind is this: you're most likely to succeed in your life if you use your talents to their fullest extent. I'm going to say that again for you. You're most likely to succeed in life if you use your talents to their fullest extent. And so to me, that means that you need to always constantly think about your talents, think about your skill set. What's your strong skill set? What defines you? And constantly like write them down and revisit them. I often do that through journaling, think about my skill set. I often write down, hey, where am I at today? What skills am I working on? What skills do I have that may translate from one sector to the other? We know that we're living in a time now that COVID-19 has taken us to a new level, and we have to really think about what's happening and what the changes are coming from. So my story, basically, we already heard my story with my bio, but I just want to point out some things here. When you think about how you tell your story, how you write your bio, you need to think about your bio in terms of, okay, what is it that I want to say that shows me or sets me apart? So I have a quote that I like to say is that, I have a commitment to seeing and serving whole individuals. What does that mean? Whole individuals. When people come to you wholly, openly, and honestly, and they want your assistance and and need your assistance, I have a commitment to helping those individuals. Because if somebody's not ready for the help, it's not going to help you to try to help them. Because if you're trying to guide them along or coach them into a new skill set, it's not going to help if the person is not mentally ready. So that's why I also had that quote, a chance meets the prepared mind, right? And so I also believe that we don't realize when we don't show up fully or see each other fully that the person next to us often has a similar story. So what does that mean? A lot of times people think about, oh, this person has this type of personality, or this person has this thing going on, right? People don't understand that people come to work. You can't actually leave your personal stuff at the door. Sometimes it's good to do that, but sometimes when you come in, you may not be able to do that, right? And so judging someone automatically by a response they may give you is not really a good thing. So I have a brain teaser for everyone who has been on this job interview. Look at this cartoon illustration here, this graphic, where you have the interview committee and you're facing them. And the first thing they tell you when you walk in for this job interview, the first question that they ask you is, tell me about yourself. So how many people understand what this question really entails? Tell me about yourself. So again, I'm interactive. I need you to pop in the chat a brief sentence telling me about yourself. All right. Tell me about yourself. You're on a job interview, and this is the dreaded question that everyone does not like to hear. Tell me about yourself. And most job interviews open up with that question. Tell me about yourself. Anybody? Anybody want to tell me about themselves? Okay, here we go. Someone typed it in. I'm a go-getter from Jersey who love libraries. Okay, go-getter from Jersey. Anybody else? See, I even stumped the audience today. I'm an enthusiastic librarian who loves to share crafty talents. I would state my background in libraries, but also interest in other positions that I've held that support the position. Yes, definitely support the position, Jen. Anybody else? Yes, Rosaline, that's a great thing. You have that music background and you work that into library programs for libraries. That is excellent. Because you're thinking about who you are yourself. Homeschool mom believes in strong literacy. Okay. All right, Anita. So the technical way, if you were on a job interview, okay, I'm a library worker who has a varied career path. Yes, Kay. Now, Kay, I would like to see you expand upon that. I'm a library worker who has a varied career path. If I was interviewing you and you were going to build your, what does varied career path mean? I would give examples. So think about that. What examples you can give to go along with that. And that also goes for Beth. I'm a homeschool mom who believes strongly in literacy. Expand upon that. Because in a job interview today, they're looking for both hard skills and soft skills when you answer your questions. Demonstrate the need of that. Yes, Kay, I like that now. So when you're going on a job interview, you would want to say, I currently hold a master's degree in social work. My journey into working into libraries was built upon this, and that. I'm using my skill set that I currently have to this. So also the other thing you want to think about when you are telling someone about yourself, especially when you're in a job interview, is that pay attention to the job description. Like break down the job description. Look at the job description, look at your current resume and see where you have the things that overlap. I like to say create a Venn diagram, right? When you're looking for a job today or trying to think about what your next step is, you really have to look at it in terms of a Venn diagram, right? The Venn diagram is you have one set there, and where the commonalities at, right? In the middle. And find that middle ground. And those are the things that you want to highlight when you're in a job interview. Okay, next slide. So this is how I would describe myself. I'm an accomplished librarian, educator, and programming specialist, an engaged educator, operations management, coach, fund development. If I was talking in a interview, I definitely would have rehearsed this. And the best way to rehearse things to answer these questions is to write the questions down and write them out before you go on an interview. So practice, just like you would practice if you had to take a state certified exam for your position. When you're going today in the world that we live in, because we live in a knowledge-based society, Peter Drucker said it all the time. He coined the term knowledge-based economy. Knowledge is our new currency. So I would say on the interview, I'm a knowledgeable librarian educated with hands-on expertise in all facets of public and academic libraries, along with nonprofit organizations, programming and fund development. I'm an innovative educator with dedication to both undergraduate and graduate teaching and mentoring, with a commitment to interdisciplinary collaboration inside and outside the university. Dedicated professor with a strong work ethic and commitment to excellence in teaching. Skillfully manages lectures in both online and face-to-face classrooms that promote lively classroom discussion. Possesses the ability to adapt to the ever-changing education, library, and nonprofit landscape, and effectively communicate with and engage a diverse audience. It sounds like a mouthful, but if I was in an interview, I would say half of it and then save if the interviewer came back with another question, I would say the second part. So the first part I would say when they say, tell me about yourself. Knowledgeable librarian educated with hands-on expertise in all facets in public and academic libraries, along with nonprofit operations, programming, and fund development. I'm an innovative educator with dedication to both undergraduate and graduate teaching and mentoring, with a commitment to interdisciplinary collaboration inside and outside the university. I actually wrote this when I was interviewing for a university position. So I looked at the job description that I was applying for, and I wrote this for that. Now, when I was applying for an executive director position, I changed that around. So think about it's a lot of work. It's homework to look for a career today. If you're changing career or changing jobs, it is homework. It's a lot of homework because of the fact that we're in a digital age. Do I have any questions right now? Because I don't want to move along if I'm losing someone. So if I have any questions, we can either type the question in the chat or you can unmute yourself if it's a short question. Any questions so far?
There are no questions in the chat right now.
Okay, great. I'll move on to the next slide. So opportunities to stretch ourselves. No skill versus skills. Like you have, right? Look at this image. No skill is just pushing one diet. You have multiple skills. You're pushing multiple skills through. Opportunities to stretch yourself. Where do you think opportunities lie to stretch your skills? Where does someone think opportunities lie to stretch our skills and stretch ourselves? Where would that opportunity lie? Anyone want to answer? I'm interactive. Okay. Everywhere within your own community? Anyone else? Writing grants for programs. Okay. Rosaline, what do you mean by writing grants for programs? That's your skill, or this is where you want to stretch yourself? I guess I can answer that. Writing grants for programs and skills, stretching. Okay. Professional development webinars, so many recently. Nice introduction to new topics. Yes. Okay. So we all look for these opportunities. So if you wanted to write a grant, Web Junction has a great program that you can actually download the certificate after you finish it. In grant writing, they have a part 1 and part 2 there. So you can do that. That's a self-paced asynchronous course. You also have the Foundation Center, which has been renamed to Candid Learning. Candid Learning actually has a lot of great webinars and also has a lot of great workshops that you can avail yourself to stretch yourself, because it's about what are the tools in your toolkit. That's what it takes. What are your tools in your toolkits? So what is your skill set, right? What are the skill sets that you bring to your organization? What are the skill sets, right, that you have that are transferable, self-management, and career specific? What are your skill sets? I'm giving you these ideas to think about because in thinking about your career and where you want to go with your career, these are some of the things that you need to think about. So who actually is looking at improving their career or looking to change or looking for a new job? Anyone? Let's see. I'm looking at all three. So Mark, unmute yourself and tell me what you're looking at. This way we can be a little more interactive. Because if we were face-to-face and I came up to Ramapo, I would have worksheets, we would be out there and I would be moving around the room. So if you don't mind, Mark, would you like to elaborate?
Yes, actually, what I mean by that is because I'm currently in a big transition right now. So I am looking at possible new job opportunities. And some of them I would even consider to be a kind of position where I have the chance to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like all three aspects, it's because, you know, I do have skills that are transferable to other libraries and I'm trying to see what my skills are that can also be transferred to other types of jobs if I can't stay within the libraries.
Great. So did you, what's your position currently at the library?
I'm a children's librarian.
Great. You know, children librarians make the best, you know, early childhood education. You know, looking into that. As a children's librarian, you can actually get into publishing, reviewing books because you've read so many books, right? So your skill set can transfer into many different careers. If you decide that you want to go and get a postmaster's and become a school media specialist, right? That's still the children's librarian skill set translates into that. So think about that along the way. So you have your job specific skills and your transferable skills. Can you name one job specific skill that you have?
I'm sorry, what was that last part? What was that? I didn't hear that well.
A job specific skill that you know that you have.
I guess it's because I am a person who likes to plan when we used to do in-person programming. So I am a program planner. So I know, like, you know, like trying to fit like in a way that is transferable to a lot of aspects between other jobs. Like if I was to, like you said, if it was a school library job, I could try and work on lesson plans, which is a different aspect of the school librarians. And actually and because of where I work, we actually have a number of school librarians that work with us on a part-time basis.
Great. So there you go. You can learn from them. You can glean from them. Perhaps meet up with them and have like a brainstorming session and ask them how you could take a program that you're currently working in the public library, but create a lesson plan for that program, because then you will start building up those skills in case you were looking for a job someplace else because you're looking to transfer and move on. So I would also like to say that these are your job specific skills, right? These are your hearts. You have your heart. Those are the skills that get you to work that particular job. But then you also have hard skills, right? These are the skills that are required, that are needed for the job. But then you have your soft skills, right? And both of these together can go move into your transferable skills. So your soft skills usually are the skills that come naturally to all of us. They define our signature strengths like communication, public relations, problem solving, decision making, punctuality. These are what we call the soft skills that are looking for. So today, the number of job postings that require job-specific experience has declined from 83% in 2019 to 79% in 2020, right? So think about that for a moment. And this information came from the iSchool at San Jose State University. They're declining for the specific experience, right? But they're rising for the soft skills because a lot of a lot of companies are looking, they prefer the job specific experience. It rose in 2019 to 16% in 2020. They want those skills, but they also want you to come in with the soft skills that is communication, right? So in 81% of job postings, the employers want you to have, or they prefer that you have an MLS degree. Not all, but they prefer that. I don't know why it is in libraries that, you know, everything is degree based. I think that's how the field was defined in the 1930s when they made it professionalized. And I feel like that's something that needs to be looked at a little further. So when we get into our transferable skills, these are all the skills that you think about that you can bring into the new place of employment, or if you wanted to start teaching at a college, or if you wanted to start doing workshops like I'm doing, right? So you have your learning, you have your IT skills, you have self-management, you have critical thinking, communicating, you have teamwork, career management, numeracy, that dealing with numbers and budgets, and information handling. But because of these skills, we think how hard we have to delve into these things. And a lot of times people don't think these things that you do naturally each and every day, you don't think about what terms that you need to associate with it and assign it to when you're creating your resume. So here's a list of transferable skills. So we have teamwork, we have delegate responsibilities, you motivate others, attention to details, assess and evaluate others' work, you deal with obstacles and crises. This happens when we were in face-to-face and libraries was open. Who worked during at 3 o'clock would come around and everyone would be like, oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock. After school start, kids are coming in. There's always a crisis. And it doesn't have to be related to the student themselves, but it could be related to just something. You're always finding yourself problem solving when you're in a library. We research and we gather information, and we definitely utilize technology and computer software each and every day. It's a part of our job. And the largest one is handle complaints. You don't have that book in yet? Oh my God, when is the person gonna return the book? Who hasn't had that question at the reference desk? So now we're gonna look at librarianship, right? And we look at, these are hardcore transferable skills, right? Bibliographic instruction, information literacy, literature searching. In a non-librarian position is more specifically potential employers. How do you transfer those into another employer? So in-demand job skills, bibliographic instructions, it goes into training or staff development. That is how you can transfer your hard skills from libraries into another sector when you're looking for other positions. Information literacy, identifying fake news, information from real news. You work with news, a lot of times websites. If someone is putting a website up and they're, especially small business associations and individuals who have their own business, they're looking for information to put on their website. This could become a part-time job for you if you're thinking about how can I take my library skills I have from the library and transfer them into another sector. You can actually be a fact checker for individuals, and that is a position. You can perform an internet search and you can look for fact checking positions, and you will find that there are a plethora of positions out there for that. Same thing for literature searching. It's competitive intelligence, business research. If I was getting ready to start my own business, I would need to research to find out who my competitors are, right? So everyone wants to know who the target market is, but a lot of times people do not know how to research and find this information effectively and efficiently. As individuals who work in libraries, these are things that we have that come natural to us, especially if you're on a busy reference desk. If you're at a busy reference desk, these are some of the things that come natural to you. Do I have any questions before I move on? All right.
It's funny you just asked that because a question just came through, but I need to, actually, nope, I'm wrong. That was just a comment that came through earlier. Never mind. I apologize. No questions.
Questions? All right. So the number one job skill for 2020, since COVID has taken over our country and the world, is communication for the digital age. How we communicate. How do you use communication? What's, how you communicate with one another. As I said, soft skills were important before the pandemic. Now, being successful while working remotely requires us to use soft skills even more throughout the day. This is according to Glassdoor expert Allison Sullivan. Communication is the number one skill found in job postings since June, according to LinkedIn. Indeed also reports that it's seen a 22% increase in the demand since last year. What powerful communication means over Zoom calls is very different from inside a conference room. LinkedIn also decided to talk about that, and they now offer a course on digital body language, right? So we know that we are from our waist up, and digital body language is how you sit. What are you moving? Are you slouching? That is something that for the digital age is your body language. And also turning on your cameras, turning off your cameras, when you should turn your camera off, why you should have your camera turned on in certain meetings. It is something that is now a new norm. So it's a new skill set. All right. So I have this graphic here. So I want everyone to take a moment and tell me which one of the three you relate with. So we have the optimist, the glass is half full. The pessimist, the glass is half empty. The cat, the glass is on the floor. Which one of these three can you relate with when, as you start thinking about your career?
Sandra Michelle, a question did come through as people are responding. Do you mind just answering a question?
Sure.
Sure. So is there an optimal amount of time to spend speaking when you are answering an interviewer's question so that you aren't perceived as babbling?
Yes, there is. So if it's a question that is a two-part question, you would definitely want to break the question in half and answer it, say, in two minutes. You don't want to take the interviewer and bore them out. You don't want to speak too fast either. So the question, tell me about yourself, you should take at least 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to tell them about yourself, because you want to paint that picture for you. If you got the question is another dreaded question that people do not like at answering is, what are your weaknesses? Now that's a question that you need to answer in at least 2 minutes, and you don't name your weakness. What you actually do with that one is you give a situation, the action you took, and how you resolved it. We call that SAR, right? So if someone said, what are your weaknesses, right? And the most people go with, as introverts, we always have an issue with speaking in public. So you would say, I previously had a weakness of public speaking, but now that we've been in Zoom and handling remote learning and remote meetings, I have decided I took a course from Toastmasters. And by taking that course with Toastmasters, it taught me, not to use the word, empty filler words. And so I've been practicing that. And so now I'm at the point where I feel more secure that I don't need to use the word because I pause when I'm speaking, and that allows me time to recover. So yes, I would say babbling is when you go on and on. If you say, tell me about yourself, that question is, you start talking about family members. No, you don't talk about family, right? If you go on and say, well, I have this degree, I have that degree, I have this degree, I did this training and this, and this, that's babbling. That's taking too long. I would actually say most questions, so you don't lose your interviewer, I would answer those questions in like 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. 2 minutes if it's a two-part question. All right. Any other questions? Oh, most people are optimists and they relate with the cat. That is so funny.
Thank you. And picking up degrees.
Say that again.
Is it beneficial to actually provide hard copies of those certificates and degrees?
It depends. Most people like the digital, a dossier, right? You have your digital information in the digital place, a digital portfolio. Some people like to carry portfolios on job interviews because sometimes you could pull it out and say, and it actually is coming back, but it really depends on you understanding the organization. In libraries, especially if you're going for some of the managerial position, I definitely would have a portfolio put together where I would have the hard copies, because when they say, another question that they ask, what would coworkers or former employers have to say about you. And if you are a person who's gotten a lot of awards, you can literally say, well, I actually have hard copies of my awards. Would you like to take a look at my portfolio? And then that gives you also time to recover and help yourself when you're nervous in an interview. And then it also shows that you're interested, but you need to know the culture of the organization that you're applying for. And that is something that you would find out by doing your research, by checking out their websites. I think something else popped in the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Optimist. Yeah, everyone wants to be the optimist. The glass is half full. I'm glad we have no pessimists in the audience today. The glass is half empty. I don't think I saw pessimists, but I believe that the optimist and the pessimist, depending on what juncture you are in your life, that's what resonates with you. And the cat, the glass is on the floor and he's like looking down at it, like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, you have to pick yourself up, right? And you got to figure it out and start all over again. Pick the glass up, fill the glass back up with water, put it in there, and start over. That's what I would do in that case with the cat. So let's take a moment to think about who you are and how you would write your personal brand statement. How many people heard of personal brand statements? Has anybody ever written a personal brand statement? Let's see. No. Oh, great. This is a great teaching opportunity. All right. So your personal brand statement is the old elevator pitch added in with some other things, right? And it really defines who you are and where you want to be and what your goals are. So it's your values. What are your values as an employee? What is your personal mission? It is your vision, and it is your think about how you relate in technology, right? So when we want to put together our personal brand statement, I have some examples here. So here are examples of personal brand statements. One is a harmonizer who helps people get along together, a highly competitive individual who likes to win at everything I do, a person who sees beauty everywhere and tries to capture it in ways that others will appreciate, a researcher who appreciates the challenge of discovering how things fit together, a persuasive salesperson with a passion for matching products with people's needs, a teacher at heart whose passion is to help other people be the best that they can be. That's your brand statement. If you remember a couple of slides back when I introduced myself, I said I'm an engaged educator. That first sentence is my personal brand statement. So a personal brand statement is usually written into 1 to 2 sentences. 1 to 2 sentences is what you would write in a personal brand statement. So now we're going to move into SMART goals. Is everyone here familiar with SMART goals? Because we actually have an exercise. Jen, did you email out the worksheet? So our SMART goals, right? SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This is how you use SMART goals for yourself. So what will be accomplished? What actions will I take? What data will measure the goal? How much? How well? Is the goal doable? Do you have the necessary skills and resources? How does the goal align with broader goals? And why is the result important? And time-bound. What is the time frame for accomplishing the goal? Right? These are our SMART. No? Oh, I need to resend the email? So when we think about our SMART goals and how we work with them, you want to remember that SMART goals are meant to address all of your major job responsibilities. Remember, goals are intended to focus our attention and resources on what is important so that you can be successful in achieving your priorities. SMART goals are goals for your day-to-day job. So anybody want to list a SMART goal for your day-to-day job while I take the moment to, don't know why this didn't go through to Jen, but I said, let me make sure. I didn't press send. All right. I need to, give me 1 second. Think about a SMART goal. I need to come out of this PowerPoint for a second and send this off. had it right here. Yep, I didn't press send. There you go, Jen. I didn't press send. Sorry about that, everyone. Samantha has a goal, circulate not popular fiction. What popular fiction collection? How would you go about that, Samantha? Here we go. How would you go about that? Let's see what Samantha has written. We are in the early steps of marketing anew to our community campus. And what are you using to market it? Yes, that's excellent. So can I use your this rebranding yourself as a campus readers advisory librarian? Can I use this and we can talk about this for a moment? Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about where Samantha is rebranding herself as the readers advisory librarian, right? So she wants to be the noted professional at her job that has all these things put together. So what would be one thing that you would do besides what would you put in the newsletter? How would you advertise yourself in the newsletter? Like, think about we went back to those brand statements. Think about what you would use for yourself as a brand, because you're the brand now, right? The Reader's Advisory Librarian, that is the brand. But Samantha, that's the title, and Samantha is the brand. So how would you put Samantha out there as this brand? You know, because social media gurus, they call themselves a social media guru because why? They're always in social media, they're posting, they're doing different things, right? So what will you do for your brand? All right, so I'm going to give instructions in a moment for filling out that. So before we go there with the brand, you have the SWOT analysis sheet. We'll do that in a second. But think about how you would take and build your brand and using the SMART goals. So the next type of goals, some of the goals are increasing something. Samantha wants to increase something. She wants to increase circulation by making herself a reader advisory librarian, right? That's a noted goal. So she made something. She's going to improve upon something, but yet you have to think about what are you going to reduce to get to because you have to have a reduction if you're doing an increase somewhere, right? And develop yourself, right? These are your common goals. So your goals, to develop a goal statement for each of these buckets, right? Your goal should be a high level enough to encompass the core outcomes for which you're responsible, but specific and clear enough so you'll be able to measure it. So as a reader advisory librarian, I need Samantha to think about how she could measure, right? Because you need to deliver your accomplishment, right? So you have the goal, you have your benchmark set, and then you need to be able to document your accomplishments. So your goals should be ongoing, right, with your job responsibilities and any new projects, assignments, priorities, or initiatives that are specific to this performance cycle, right? And keep them refined, because you don't want to have too many goals, because having too many goals will place yourself in a position where it's not doable. So we have our SWOT analysis sheet. And this is where we're going to use the SWOT analysis sheet. And I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. How many people here are calling in? And did you get the worksheet so you can follow along? Because I can't post I can only share the worksheet I can share the worksheet, but if I post it, you won't be able to see it because we're in Zoom. Yeah. Oh, printed it. Okay, got it. Trying to print it now. All right, I'll give people a few seconds to get their worksheets before we go into that. So I'll explain to you why you should perform a SWOT analysis and what it is and how it can be useful for your career. So the SWOT matrix is a framework for analyzing your strengths and weaknesses, as well as opportunities and threats that you may face. This helps you focus on your strengths, helps you to minimize your weaknesses, and take the greatest possible advantages of opportunities that are available to you. In this SWOT analysis worksheet that you have, I want you to think about your current job descriptions. And I want to think about how your current job descriptions may also encompass some forms of the human service field, right? Human service field, that's like working in nonprofit, that might be working in education. Just think about those ways. So to construct your own SWOT analysis, we wanted to have you take the chance to look at this, examine your current situation. And as I said, think about what are your strengths, your weaknesses, how you can capitalize on your strengths and overcome your weaknesses, and think about the external opportunities and threats in your chosen field. So when everyone has their worksheet, let me know. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can look at the worksheet as well and then place you in breakout groups. Jen, I don't think I have the function for breakout groups. I'm looking. Yeah, let's see. Nope.
It should be under the 3 dots that says more.
I know, I don't see the 3 dots on here that says more in my Zoom meeting. Let me see something.
Next to reactions?
Nope, I don't have it.
Okay, I'm going to make you the host.
I was like, I don't see that. All right, you're going to make me the host? All right, great. Everyone has it? Okay, I'm now the host. Now I can do breakout rooms. Thank you. Okay, so we have a total. I'm not going to count myself, and I'm not going to count Jen. And Jen, unless you want to participate, I can throw you in there. I won't count myself, which will make it easy. 16, we can go into groups of 4. Jen, are you participating?
It's whatever you want me to do. I'm good with participating, but I don't have to.
Okay. You can participate if you like. All right, so I'm going to place people in breakout groups, but let me pull up the sheet so that we can I can go over exactly what what I would like for you to do and how, like, what you get out of this sheet. So I'm going to reshare my screen again and then talk about this personal SWOT analysis. So this is a personal SWOT analysis worksheet, right? And it came from an organization called Mind Tools. And each one of the boxes, I want you to answer each one of these questions just within one sentence. So it's like, what do you do well? What unique resources can you draw on? What do others see as your strengths? Your weaknesses, what can you improve on? Where do you have fewer resources than others? What are others likely to see as your weaknesses? Especially the young lady, Samantha, who's thinking about becoming a reader advisory. Really think hard in this section of weaknesses, but then also think about your opportunities as well, because we know what your strengths are, because that's what you do well. And then the threats. So these 3 boxes, if you're Samantha, I would really like for you to work hard into. I'm actually going to put you in groups and pairs of 2 because I don't want everyone to get confused with it. And so when you're writing these out, after you finish your sheet, run these questions by your partner. And then the partner go and do the same thing. We're going to do this. It's a quick one because, 15 minutes. But I'm going to pop around into everyone's breakout room and us also be there and you can raise your hand in the breakout room and I can come in and be there to help facilitate. So I'm going to set up the breakout rooms now, and you will go into breakout rooms of, here we go. All right, so one room may have 3 participants while other rooms may have 2. And everyone knows how to utilize breakout rooms before I create them. You'll see a pop-up on your screen that it says you're assigned to this breakout room, and just click on that. Is everyone familiar with breakout rooms? Yes? Let's see in the chat. Not really, Mark. Okay, so here are the instructions for breakout rooms. All right. What happens in a breakout room, what you'll see is something will pop up across your screen that says join breakout room. Click the link, you join the breakout room. You'll stay in the breakout room. I will send messages while you're there. And then what happens then, I will bring everyone back to this group. You don't have to do anything like logging out or anything of that nature. you just stay there until you see the link that says the breakout room is going to end, and it gives a countdown from 60 seconds. And so in the breakout rooms, because you have your worksheets, this is where you can work quietly and you can talk and run things. It's like partner, parent, think, parent, share, where you're sharing with a partner and just actually go through that. Does that make sense about the breakout rooms? Is it clear? Okay. Yes. All right. So now I will place everyone into the breakout room. Got it, Mark? Great. Here we go. Just click the link. I'm opening all the rooms. Click the link, join breakout room. Click your link. Doe 15, click the link. If someone doesn't join a breakout room, I will move someone else around. Doe 15, Kay Sullivan has not joined their room. Have you left the training? All right, Samantha's in a room by herself. Did someone just join the workshop? Lisa. I can assign you to a breakout room if you would like, Lisa. Can you hear me? Yvette didn't join. Amanda? Anadora? Sorry. Would you like to join us in a breakout room? You are not here. So I have 3 people that are logged in, but I would like to place you to do the activity that everyone else is working with.
I'm here. I'm Yvette. I am here, but I'm unable to get in on the breakout. I don't know if it's my computer, but I'm having a little bit of problems. So I'm just gonna.
So why don't you use the worksheet and just work on it without being in the breakout? I don't want you to lose access.
I went upstairs and printed I do have the sheet. I went upstairs and printed it out.
All right. So just have the sheet in front of you. I won't put you in breakout rooms because everyone else is going to come back here to the main room. So for Yvette and Lisa, just fill out the sheet. If you want to unmute yourself and just talk here in the main room, I'm just gonna go and check on other people in the other breakout rooms. So this will be a breakout room for you. Lisa, can you participate in, like, if Yvette wanted to brainstorm with you and run some of her answers by you? Or are you totally just participating through chat? She can't use her mic. All right, Yvette, she can't use her mic.
Okay,
so
that's fine. I'll just do my
yeah, do it yourself, an individual. It's okay, Lisa. It's fine. Just work on the worksheet individually, and then you can communicate in the chat when we come back, and Jen will be able to field questions to me. So in the meantime, if you have any questions while I'm here, you can type it in the chat if you don't understand how to use the form right now.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Lisa, you can type questions to me in the chat. I will answer it.
There we go.
Hello, hello, hello. How'd it go?
Good.
Good? Yeah? Any feedback? Thumbs up? Anyone have any feedback before I move on with my presentation?
Well, with my partner and I, we both were really impressed, not only with this worksheet, but for the threats portion of it, because it really was something we thought was really interesting, especially the what threats do your weaknesses expose you to? We really saw that as quite an interesting question, quite the eye opener too, to be like, how it relates to the weaknesses box.
And what did you come up with?
Well, I know for myself, my familiar, for a weakness, it's getting quickly familiar with virtual technology in this new age. And, that could be considered a threat because how long did it take me to adapt to it? Like, it's almost like, am I able to adapt to new technology quickly? In short, I actually am able to do it quickly. It's just because there's so many different platforms out there, it takes a longer time for me to understand them all.
Yes. So what I would recommend with all the different platforms out here, most of them still are similar. I find watching YouTube videos on different platforms actually helps more the visual than reading, because it's a lot of jargon that they write into these training guides, and that just go learn what you need to learn to perform what you need to perform. And so I watch the YouTube videos. It's a lot easier, and because we are constantly immersed in this technology, reading all the jargon sometimes can be time consuming, also can be confusing. So I definitely would just watch a couple of YouTube videos to help with that. Yep, visually videos work. That's right, Samantha. Videos are definitely for sure. YouTube University, yes, Mark, that's exactly what it is. And actually it's putting a damper on. There's so many people that are self-taught just by watching YouTube videos that colleges and universities are starting to rethink their curriculums. A 15-week course now, they're really starting to rethink what does a 15-week course entail? That old standard of how universities were built in the beginning. So if I don't have any more questions on this, I want to move on because it's 11:20 and I want to be mindful of your time and spending time with me this morning. So I'm gonna move on to my presentation. All right, I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint. All right. No, not the beginning. All right, and just, sorry about that. It just took me back to the beginning. We did our turn and talk. So personal SWOT analysis, right? We just did that. You brought some clarity, right? And direction to your career. You're now thinking about, what I need to change and how am I going to go about it? So you think about what skills you developed and that you can document in your personal development plan so you can highlight them at a networking event or a job interview. So those skills again comes back to how you can highlight some of your skills that you have identified using this. This sheet definitely is a work in progress. You definitely need to continue revising it and working on it, but it will help bring that direction and clarity to your career. Again, so my summation of a personal SWOT analysis or a personal development plan is your strengths. You consider this from your own perspectives and from the point of view of people around you. Think about asking people around you different questions. What do you see as some of my greatest strengths, right? Because sometimes the things that you do that come so naturally to you, you don't realize it's your strength. Right? You do not realize it's your strength. I had this past weekend, we did the New York Black Librarian Caucus 50th anniversary gala. And I tell you, I worked very hard. And I basically did majority of this on my own for lack of whatever reasons. But I had someone text me, and I'm actually pulling up her text just to show something that I didn't even think about for myself. She was like, "Hey there, wonderful job per the usual over the weekend. And Kelsey did a great job. That's my daughter." She says, "Thank you for always thinking of me and for making connections. You're a gem." Making connections. I'm always connecting somebody to somebody. Oh, I know someone that works over here. You need to talk to someone that works over there. And I make the connection for people. I didn't realize that that's one of my greatest strengths. But when a friend of mine from Maryland sent me that text and was like, thank you for the connection, because I connected her with an author that she's going to be working with, because the author happened to live in the Maryland area. I just did that out of just who I am, right? And so that's thinking about your strengths. Then you have your weaknesses, right? Again, consider this from a personal and an internal perspective and an external perspective. Some things do other people see weaknesses that you don't see? Do coworkers consistently outperform you in the key areas? Be realistic. It's best to face the unpleasant truth as soon as possible, right? Opportunities. What are our opportunities, right? What are opportunities? Look at your strengths. Ask yourself where these open up in opportunities. Look at your weaknesses. Ask yourself whether you could be open about opportunities by eliminating those weaknesses. That's a positive. So the negative is in some threats is performance analysis, right? Will often provide key information. It can point out what needs to be done and put your problems into perspective. So it can eliminate the negative. And Mark, great. If you need a connection down there, I will connect you to my friends that are in the DC, Maryland area. All right. So internal, your strengths, your weaknesses, your externals are your opportunities in the career field, your threats in the career field. Like right now, we have a threat in the career field. Some people say we have a threat in the career field, right? And that is the threat of potential budget cuts and layoffs that are looming over different library systems, right? Looming over different library systems. Why is my internet unstable? Let me tell my son to turn his game off. All right. Discover your strengths, right? Your strengths be by understanding what motivates you and why you'll be happier, more confident, and be able to achieve your goals. You can strengthen your career by passing a personality test and consciously doing more of what you love and be more productive and engaged and successful. This past weekend, I did a different type of career workshop where I was talking about AI, which is about appreciative inquiry. And this is one of the slides that I had used in the workshop, right? There is a different type of personality test that I prefer over Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs is more from a psychological standpoint, and it was actually used to create it to weed out the faint. It really didn't highlight your personality. So there's another one that I have used that helps with your personality test. I will pop that in the chat because I need to go over to my other presentation and get that one out. I forgot to bring this one to put it over here with me, but I will definitely give it to you at the end. Is there a question? Anybody have a question right now? All right. And also taking the character test can bring out your strengths in yourself and others, and you'll be able to build complementary relationships. So I read today this morning, I always start my day off, I'll go to LinkedIn and I'll read through my timeline for about 15 to 20 minutes just to see different things. And someone had posted a post, and that post on LinkedIn, I don't have my phone with me, but that post basically talked about relationships, and it was about building relationships. And I often tell my children that their net worth is equal to their network, and that people give to people. And it's about how you build your relationships is what will ultimately take you to the next level in your career. I have people that I go to for my reference letters that have known me for over 20 years. Like my college professors, when I was in college, I networked with my college professors, and two of my college professors, I have 5 people that I utilize. 2 of them are former college professors, and I rotate when I want to go for references. But I built relationships with them. How did I build a relationship? Thank you, Anita. Anita was in my workshop. Thank you, Anita. Love you for that. So she popped in the chat. It's the high five test, right? It's a personality assessment. You can do the free one. And it'll come back with 5 things that you are good at. And then if you decide to pay for it, I wouldn't tell you to pay for it, but if you decide you want to pay for it, then it'll give you a more detailed analysis of who you are. But the first free 5 one that they give you is perfect. So taking that character test, or more so than that psychological test, the Myers-Briggs, because on that scale, it's a different type of test, and it definitely, they use that at Target, the Myers-Briggs. If you ever apply for Target online, Target has this long, lengthy personality exam, but it's Myers-Briggs, and it really is used to frustrate you And they do that to frustrate you, to see if you become frustrated in dealing with customers. So that's why I don't like Myers-Briggs. It doesn't really do much for you. So in our personal development plan, right, ultimately this circle goes around. You know and understand yourself. You study leadership. You find mentors and role models out there for yourself. You map out that professional development plan. You involve others because you need an accountability coach. You need if you can't afford a coach, which I don't feel that people need to go out and, if you want to do a coach and afford a coach and do the right thing with the coach, not the right thing, have somebody else that is a professional trained in that field, then get a coach. If not, you get a friend, and that is a true friend that will tell you, you know what, that's not right. I don't know why you're doing that. You don't want cheerleaders. You want real allies. You want someone to actually give you the truth, right? So you involve those. Objectively assess your outcomes, critically analyze your outcomes, and reassess yourself. I reassess myself every year. And I don't do it for New Year's, as everybody say, oh, New Year's. No, I just, in the summertime, that's when it's more downtime for me. In the month of July, I look at where I'm at. I look at my goals. I write them down. I do a visionary board, and I manifest what I need to come true in my life. So I personally do mine in July, not at the beginning of the year as they have it that we do in life. The commercialization of it, I do it in July, not because of January's commercialized, yes, but I do it in July. So I have another quick turn and talk, but we won't go into breakouts because of time. I just want to think about when you create your SMART goals. I told you we're going to come back to this. Here are 2 examples of initial goals, right? Walk through the process. I want to complete a project by, and I want to improve my performance by. These are goals that you should create as a SMART goal. And I look at this as 6-month goals, right? In 6 months, I want to complete this project. In 6 months, I want to improve my performance here for long term, right? But a short, immediate one is like looking at what you can change for next week, or looking at what projects you can complete in a month. So think about it from that terms. So here is a goal for someone that I have adopted from a career book that says, I want to complete a project. So you look at your SMART goals, what's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So this particular person, many people assessing our current site from their mobile devices. Since it's not a responsive site, it's a poor experience for customers. I want to launch a mobile app for my company website by the end of June, which requires involvement from a software development, a design, and marketing. That's the specific goal. Now, how are you going to measure it? Creating this mobile app for our company site will require a lot of resources. To make it worthwhile, I like to have 50,000 installed on the site within 6 months of launch. I also like to show a 5% conversion rate for customers using a mobile site. It can be achievable. The departments that will be involved have signed off on creating a mobile app. I need to manage the project and set milestones to keep everyone motivated and on target. Improving the customer's experience on mobile devices, a core initiative for my company this year, and time bound. In order to achieve 50,000 mobile apps installed and 5% conversion rate by the end of the fiscal year, the app will need to be launched by Q2 with a robust marketing plan that should continue through the end of the year. Now, going back to Rosaline, who wants to start the Reader Advisory Librarian and start that group, this is what you should write out for your project. You should really look at it in terms of this, because that's a project. It's not something that you're doing for self. You would want to take these steps and look at it. And by the end of Q2, what do you want to do for yourself with the marketing of the Reader Advisory groups? Oops, I think I moved back too far. Let me see something. Sorry about that. That's a project. Okay. So how do we connect to the world of work in this time of economic change? So we're going to get a little history lesson. So when you think about the agriculture age, which is the 18th century, right? People were farming and things, and that was how we made our living. Then we moved into the industrial age, which was the 19th century, where we had technology, where we were doing things in factories and television came about, things of that nature. And then we got into the information age, which was the 20th century. Then that's when we had the internet came out. We started getting our social networking sites all at the end of the 20th, right? And that was something that has continued to build on the advent of the information age. So now we're in what we call the conceptual age. And also another term that I like to use is the knowledge-based economy, that knowledge age, where your knowledge is your new currency. It's more so the knowledge than the hands-on. So if you think about the job of a janitor, the title has been changed to facilities manager. Why? Because computers are involved now, where before the janitor or the super or the maintenance person just had to maintain the boiler. You know, they would turn the boiler on, the old boilers, and they would let some water out. They call that bleeding the boiler. Now the boiler is on it's electronic, and so they got to know how to read the screen and know how to hit the right button. So that's a new skill set, but that's what has also furthered the digital divide that we live in, because we're in this conceptual age, right? So think of just a simple job like that, where the skill set has changed because of technology. So reskill and repurpose. Here is a chart that came from the Labor Bureau, and I took this down in January of this year. And its employment of librarians is projected to grow 6%. That's why, Kay, you got to get that degree. From 2018 to 2028, about as fast as the average of all occupations, right? So librarians is a total of 6% higher than any other occupation right now. Librarians, curators, and archivists is like 3%, but there's a raise. So changes in our economy, predictions for our future. The number one, healthcare will change. Outsourcing will increase. Jobs will be eliminated, and careers will have to evolve. So I'm going to do this again. These are the 4 things that's happening right now. I won't say it's all COVID related, as people like to say, oh, COVID-19 is changing. No, these were things that were changing before, and it just gave companies an out. I don't know if anybody heard the other day that Wall Street is thinking about moving to Texas. What is that going to do for New York State economy? Right? Wall Street has always been in New York, because New York was the port when 1700s, when they first started migrating from England and other places. Wall Street is thinking about moving to Texas. Oh, you didn't hear that, Jen? Yes. Look it up. Do a quick internet search. You'll find a New York Times article about that. So the landscape is changing. Jobs will be eliminated. And Wall Street, that area, will just become a ghost town with all the luxury buildings that are down there in New York City. Yes, Mark. Yep. So healthcare is changing. I'm dating myself. I couldn't find one that I could use that was in the the comments, but I wanted to put a Jetson cartoon strip right up here with this, because I don't know if you watch the Jetsons. You can always go on YouTube and watch the Jetsons now, but the Jetsons was out, I think, in the 60s or 70s cartoon. And the Jetsons, we're living the Jetson age, right? Telemedicine. Who knew? Who knew? Telemedicine, right? Groceries are coming to us. They're being delivered, right? All these things that were predicted in this show, this cartoon for the Jetsons, cars that drive themselves, right? Work from home, pop-up offices at home, healthcare, all these things were in that cartoon of the Jetsons. And I am so trying to find it. If anyone can find it for me, 1960s, thank you, Mark. If anyone can find me something in the free comments that I can utilize in my presentations, I love it, right? Because I need to show the Jetsons, because people, the younger generation, feel like they have that this is all new, but it really isn't. So these 4 things here, pay attention to, that's changing in our economy. I know that business analysts, I know that corporations are blaming COVID-19 for these changes, where they're outsourcing, where they can have you work from home, where they're not going to pay you for your internet because they're saying you're saving money in transportation costs. But 2 years ago, when you were working remotely from home, there was a provision that most companies gave people who worked from home they called it telecommuting, who worked from home 2 days a week. They gave them monies towards their cell phone, towards their electricity bills. But they're not doing it now. The companies, they've taken that away, because I have family members that were telecommuting before the term remote work came out, and has grown exponentially in the last 7 months. So just think about that. Now, my next slide, I don't know why this is freezing, right? So how do we innovate, adapt, and learn as this world changes and jobs and career evolves, right? We had, you see here, I have the old phonograph. Then they went to vinyl records. Then we had cassette tapes. Then there was the boom box. Then we had disc. And then we have MP3 players. And now we have cell phones that does all of this for us, basically, right? So as the industry has changed, how have our careers adapted? Think about how you can adapt your career as these industries have changed. So 4 steps that I want to think about to conduct your career search and leave you with these 4 steps. Let's create a list of all questions, right? Create a list of all questions. Then you need to identify. How do you identify your resources? We can perform internet searches. There are very good job boards out here. A few of the job boards that I like a lot is Glassdoor. I like ZipRecruiter. I like Career Balance, the Balanced Career. These are some of the source sites. I also like this other one called The Muse that I read really great articles from. And The Fairy Godmother, right, has really great articles on working and career changing. Those are some of the top ones that I visit often. Group your questions. Group your questions as like there's behavioral questions, there's situational questions. Group your questions when you're out there interviewing for your next position. And start your research. So what do you want to learn about careers, industry, positions, or organizations? I'm opening up the floor for here because this is like next to my last slide, my actual last slide. I'll do this for you. It's question and answer, and then it's my thank you with my information. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and we can come in and you can tell me in the next, we're gonna use the next 20 minutes or so doing Q&A, because I know that I put a lot of information out here to you, and I just want to know how you respond to it, if there's things that you need to know. You found a clip for me, Mark? Let me see the clip you found. He went and found me a clip on YouTube. Let me see this. Can I play it? I think I can. Let me go back and share my screen.
Billions rerun of the Flintstones.
Here goes. Yabba-dabba-doo. Hey, look out, Fred!
Yabba-dabba-doo.
Kenny, countdown. How many times have I told you no TV in the classroom? What have you to say for yourself? Yourself.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Boing.
What do you think about that?
Theory of...
So, what do you think about that clip? How many people are at home with kids and they're supposed to be in their remote classes and they're playing Fortnite or a game? Anyone at home with kids that are learning remotely? Yes. What is that like for you? Yes, video. Yeah, see, video media on the watch. What is it like for you? That was relevant, Mark, and I thank you for it. With technology evolving, because the one thing you got from there, what happened with Elroy? Elroy is the son's name from the Jetsons, right? The robot started malfunctioning, right? And so what did Elroy do? As what a kid would always do, imitated the robot. So we will not totally, I mean, we have technology. Technology has totally been embraced. But what fun is it? She said it's fun when she wants to play with her younger brother or tell me about it. Exactly. So how do you get your kid to stay still for that, for remote learning? It's difficult. It's really difficult. So think about yourself, your careers. So you don't want your career to be stagnant, right? So how can you not have a stagnant career? Other than getting an MLS, a bachelor's degree, something focusing in nonprofit, a certificate program in nonprofit. Why? What are libraries, right? Most libraries function as de facto a governmental, they toy the line of being independent and being de facto governmental agency. Yes, that's an excellent soft skill, Mark. Willingness to constantly learn new things. Willingness to constantly learn new things. So that is it for my presentation. We have about 15 minutes, and I will open the floor for questions. Thank you for your time this morning. Any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask me questions. I have no questions? Nope.
Jen, are you there?
I'm looking for Jen. It might be questions in the chat. I mean, in the Q&A. Let me see if I can get it.
There aren't any questions that came through.
Okay.
I suppose, you know, I'm sure the information is so greatly overwhelming to everyone. Mm-hmm. And so I guess it's a question of how do you take all of this information, bottle it up into a phone interview or a Zoom interview that lasts for 20 minutes and make such an impression on the people who are interviewing you. Can you speak to that at all?
I can. So the first thing I would say about Zoom interviewing is make sure you have a background that is not distracting to the interview. Like, I forgot to cover up my calendar. I didn't want to distract you guys from, with that. I usually cover my calendar up so that everything is just clean and pristine in this area. Interviewing online takes a skill. Also, a tip that I like to give people when I'm coaching them is that I usually tell them to put a Post-it right by the camera, and the Post-it says smile. Because oftentimes we're not in front of someone, we can't really read their body language. So I would say smile. There is body language that you must pay attention to. Being slunched over doesn't show that you're engaged in the interview. So you constantly need to, like, as the ballerinas, if you ever took ballet lessons, they will always say swan style, right? So like arch your back and swan, put your shoulders up. So that's swan. In 20 minutes in the interview, the key questions they're definitely going to ask you are, tell me about yourself is one. And I actually have them. I figured I was going to get that question, so I did pull up those questions for me. So tell me about yourself is one question that will be in that 20-minute interview. If we talk to a coworker or a former employer, what would he or she identify as one of your strengths? What are your specific qualifications for this job, right? What are your qualifications for this job? You could very much have the theoretical knowledge about that job, but have skill sets that transfer into that. Speak to that. You can say, I recently took a course on XYZ, and that's why I'm qualified for this position. The question is, why should I hire you? How has your education and training prepared you for this job? And they always ask about your weaknesses and your strengths. Those tend to be one of those 20 questions, but the questions are definitely aligned to the job description. So my best answer I can give you is do the research. Make sure you analyze the job description. It's a skill set to analyze the job description because you're looking at the action verbs. And always use some of those action verbs in your talk. So that means you have to do homework. So one of the action verbs say that the job you need to possess. When you're describing yourself, you say, I possess XYZ skill set, right? If the job description involves you administering something, well, in my previous position, I administered XYZ, or in my previous position, I delivered XYZ. So you can do a quick internet search on action verbs or keywords for job interviewing, and you'll come up with a plethora of lists that you can utilize. But just having that list alone doesn't make it. You really have to look at the job description. You really have to break down that job description and really see the hidden words that are there, because those hidden words in that job description will be the same hidden words that got you the interview that you didn't even realize that were listed within your resume that comes out through the ATS system. The ATS system is called the Applicant Tracking System. This is what companies do to program when they want to get the resumes going from the job board, going through the internet and going into this particular queue. So when your resume is in queue and you never get called back and you say, I know I was qualified for this job, why didn't I get an interview? It's because you didn't have the right words on your resume that corresponded with the, mirroring is the words in the job description is powerful, definitely. So those are the words that you want to have in your job, in your resume, and also in your, when you're preparing for your interview. A tip that I would say to prepare for a virtual interview is to take your cell phone, record yourself, speak into it, and then analyze how you looked while you were in virtual land. That's another great tip.
I think that's great. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And then, so there, no one has any other questions, so I'm going to keep asking you a couple of questions if that's okay.
That's fine. Wait, someone just popped in. Mark says, would it also help to do that with phone interviews, not Zoom? Definitely. So with a phone interview, record yourself previously answering questions in your phone and listen to the tape. I don't know how many people have ever made the switch and took classes online, and the dreaded discussion board and how you're supposed to respond to the discussion board. When I first started school, she said, thank you, Dr. Eccles. Thank you, Samantha. When I first started teaching online, I used to have students that would tell me they had difficulties typing their answers into the chat. So I told them, go old school. Look at the question and speak it into your phone and use voice transition, voice dictation, translation programs like drag and dictation, and then it writes it out for you, or even use it in Word, Microsoft Word. You speak voice text, and that way you can start programming your brain to respond in the discussion boards. That's a tip. But definitely it's rehearsal. Just think like an actor. Any other questions? Do you have any advice on how to talk to people if you're trying to network with colleagues in different departments and collaborate? Yes. Find the common ground. Find the common denominator, right? We learned that in math, right? When you work with fractions, you find the common denominator. Find that common denominator from that other department, because everybody has a common denominator. And then you start speaking from there, and it gets you to network. And also collaborate. Find a way that you can collaborate with others in different departments. Any other questions?
Do you mind speaking to imposter syndrome? As I feel like, and maybe it's only me personally, but no matter how much I would prepare and do my research, you still go to the interview and you're sweating and you're self-doubting, and it just hits you hard. And it's funny because I'm the one that tells people, go for that reach position, see what happens. It doesn't hurt to be in it to win it, right? But there's always, in the back of your mind, it's those weaknesses. So do you mind like talking about that a little bit?
Always turn your weaknesses into your strengths. Find a way to soar with that. Always turn your weaknesses into strengths. Imposter syndrome is only there because society has placed different barriers on us. So if you just look at who you are and know what you stand for and go in for that reach position because you have the theoretical knowledge of it, own it. Right? The only way to overcome imposter syndrome, which I used to have imposter syndrome because I would get these great positions and get promotions and get authors. I'm like, I deserve that? Did I do that? Right? We all go through that. But the one thing that I've been doing personally for myself is self-talk, self-love, but it's also owning my stuff. The good, the bad, and the indifferent. Own it. Because once you own it, you take the power away from it. And that's the way you overcome imposter syndrome, is by owning your stuff. All right? Own it. As they say, that Bossed Up is another site that I look at a lot. It's called Bossed Up. And on the Bossed Up site, they always talk about owning it, right? Just being a badass. Excuse me for cursing, but that is what people say. That's actually the title of a book, right? How to be a badass. So own it.
Mm-hmm.
Own it.
I haven't heard of that site. That sounds great.
Bossed Up? Yes, Bossed Up is a lovely site.
Oh, great. Okay, do we have any further questions? We are approaching that 12 o'clock hour.
I think they're overwhelmed. It's called information overload, right? Anyone feeling overloaded?
Beth had stated that it's a lot to digest, but helpful.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And it's being recorded, so you can always come back to the recording. And what was it? YouTube University. So come back.
YouTube University. Yes.
YouTube University. Yep.
Yep. We definitely need to own it. Own your stuff. That's the only way you can overcome imposter syndrome. You just got to own it. Because as you said, you prepare for it, and you get there, you're sweating, you come. Take that 5. Well, the other thing for interviewing, someone once told me was, unless you're allergic to bananas, I wouldn't recommend it. But eating a banana like 30 minutes before the interview, potassium, helps calm your nerves. And don't drink coffee before the interview. Have a cup of green tea first. That also helps with the nerves. We love our coffee, but our coffee sometimes will send us into coffee stimulates you. And that also helps with the nervousness. It helps facilitate the nervousness. Chamomile will make me fall asleep, Mark. I go with the green tea because I'm a coffee drinker, and green tea is less caffeine in the different terms of it. It's a different type of caffeine, and so it works for me. But the banana works as well for potassium.
And Jen, I think Mark had asked earlier, Sandra Michelle, will the slides be shared?
That I'm not sharing, unfortunately. I'm still working on this, perfecting this workshop. So, and this was a paid position. So if it was something I was doing at a conference, it would be different. But I can't share these, but I can give you some tips. I can put together a list of resources that you can look at. That I can do.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Mark says that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll work on that when I get off this off the Zoom. A couple of places, like I mentioned Bossed Up, I mentioned Glassdoor, everyone knows about. I mentioned the Fairy Godmother. I'll put together a couple of links that I utilize, that I do my research from, in helping that. And there's a couple of websites also with remote work, understanding remote work.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. If there's no further questions, I'm going to reiterate that everyone will be receiving an email with the link to the recorded session. There will also be a link to complete the online evaluation form, because of course, RCLS is striving to provide dynamic and informative programming for our member libraries and others in the New York area and New Jersey, and sometimes across the country as people pop on into our session. So please take the few minutes to complete that evaluation form. Thank you so much, Sandra Michelle, for being here today.
Thank you, everyone.
Honestly, it was so great. And with that, I'm going to say once again, thank you for imparting your knowledge onto us. And thank you, everyone here, for attending. And Megan says she'll be reviewing the recording and checking in on the SWOT as they move forward. So
great. I'm excited for you. I'm excited that everyone have something there, to take from and, learn from this and look at your careers from through a different lens is where you need to go.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a really great day. Thank you so much, Sandra Michelle, for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.